Hello. Just seeing my comment here. English Conference Week, Lesson 2, reading. Awesome. So let me put my phone here. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Let me see who is here. Hello, Raul, Ale, Hailey, Iago, Glau, Tiago, Dali, Thaís, Nath, Luli, hello, Jessica, Vinicius, morning. Is it morning, afternoon, or evening for you guys? Let me know. Are you going to sleep? Are you waking up? What are you guys doing? So it's 9:17 here in Sydney, Australia. My time zone. Hello, Stephanie. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Layla. Yay. Hello, Tyson. Hello, Gabi. Hello, Glau, Jamie. Hello, Jose. Jose or Jose? Hello, Mara. Hello, Joss. Hello, Leticia. Good day, mate. How's it going? How are ya? I want to be more Australian today. Hello, Babi. Hello, Fred. Tyson is in Toronto. That's how you know if someone is from Toronto, right? If the person says Toronto, they are not from Toronto. Let me just turn off my music here so we can get it started. Yeah, so that's something that I've learned when I was living in Canada. I was living in Toronto. So Canadians actually say Toronto, like an N-O at the end. So they don't say Toronto. So if you're going to Canada or if you're living in Toronto, remember to say Toronto. And in Australia, they say Australia. Mostly Australians say Australia. Welcome to Australia, mate. And they say mate for like bro or something like that. So it's like, how's it going, mate? Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna stop my personifications. Otherwise, you guys are gonna leave the life if I just start doing that. Oh, hello from Roraima. Wow. Adelaide. Oh, a lot of people in Adelaide. I'm going to Adelaide very soon, like very soon. So maybe we can meet for coffee. Let me know how are the coronavirus rules in Adelaide, and then let me know if we can go for a coffee. Like here in New South Wales, where Sydney is, things are getting better. So we are allowed to travel, like in the state. We are allowed to see people. Restaurants and pubs are opening again. So maximum, I think 50 people. So yeah, like things are getting better. Australia, all right, so let's get it started. Oh, I love it. Hello, Dri. Dri is back in Brazil. She was in California. The borders are closed for Adelaide. Yeah, for South Australia, right? Yes. So for now, it's just open New South Wales and Victoria. So I'll probably go to Melbourne before that. And I'll tell you guys more about it later on. But in general, I'm going to go to Melbourne first and Albury, which is the border. And I know Queensland border is going to open on July 10th. So maybe I go up first. Not sure. But let me know, guys, if you are somewhere around Australia, if you want to meet for coffee in a few months, maybe, when the border is open. So it's going to be exciting. All right, so let's get it started. Today is our lesson number 2 in our English Confidence Week. So before I started, what did you guys think about the session yesterday? What do you think about listening? Did it help? Did you guys like it? What was your main insight from our lesson yesterday? Let me know. And then I can get it started with our lesson 2. Giselle is saying that she's in Sunshine Coast. So maybe after July 10, I'm going to be in Sunshine Coast as well. Renata is saying the session yesterday was amazing. Thanks for your feedback. And today we're going to talk about reading. So reading, I'm always surprised because not a lot of people like the reading topic. People, I don't know, people are just like very relaxed about reading. And I have a funny story about reading. So I've done IELTS. So do you guys know IELTS test, the English test? It's like a global test that you can take and it proves your English level, right? So I've taken IELTS 3 times. So first time I took IELTS, I was in Brazil. Second time I took IELTS test in Canada. Third time I took IELTS test in Australia because I wanted to get an 8 and then I had to take the test 3 times. And then when I did it here in Australia, I finally got my 8 in IELTS test. And the funny thing is that when I took IELTS test for the first time in Brazil, I didn't start reading because I was like, oh wow, like reading is so easy. Like reading is the easiest option. And reading was my worst score. And I was like, when I got my results, I was super scared about the speaking part of the test because I was like, I don't think I can speak English like for the test. So I was really scared about the speaking part of the IELTS test. And I was so confident about reading because I was like, yeah, I just have to read and answer some questions. Like, that's fine. So I didn't focus on reading that much. And then what happened is that surprisingly, I got like an 8 on my speaking test. And then I got a 6 on my reading task. And I was like, that was my lowest score. It was on my reading. And I was like, I don't think I can read in English at all. But it's because I was not prepared, right? I underestimated the test. So when we talk about reading, you guys are gonna see like today's live, today's lesson, not a lot of people are gonna connect. Yesterday we had over 100 people online and today we have like 50, we have like half of the people. And usually people who actually really need to improve their reading are people who are not here watching this class, right? But I just wanna say congratulations because you guys made the decision of being here today because you guys want to improve your reading, right? So when we think about reading, we're not just thinking about reading and understanding. Like that's the main point. Yes, like of course we want to read something and we want to understand about it. But what we really want to do is like we need to have a goal before. So what are you guys reading for? And what are you reading, right? It's different. For example, if you are reading an article on internet, it's different if you are reading a book in English. Even if you are reading like a book, depending on the type of book, the vocabulary that you're reading, you're gonna read the book with a different focus. So yesterday during the listening session, we talked about the focus, the main goal. So before you start reading anything, I would say you need to stop and think about, okay, why am I reading this? Is it just for fun or is it more like academic reading? Or it's because I need to take a test or anything like that. So before you start reading anything, think about why you're doing that task. And once you decide why you're doing that task, you can actually decide how you are going to read the task, okay? What happened to me during IELTS is that even though I know how to read English, and when we say reading, it doesn't mean that you have to know all the single words, like that's not the topic, you just need to understand the message. But what happened to me during IELTS test is that I was reading the text. And that's not what IELTS is about, right? It's not about what the test is about. So I was reading the text and I was actually kind of understanding what the text was saying. While the idea for an exam or like an IELTS test is actually to find answers for the questions. So I was reading it, but I was reading it in the wrong way, right? So when you are reading something, really like just stop for a minute before you start and then have this idea. So this is my step number 1 for you to improve your reading. So think about why you are reading that material. So if you're choosing a book, for example, what do you expect from that book? Are you reading because you want to improve your vocabulary? Or are you reading because you just want to have fun? So you want to read like a book about a topic that you like? Are you reading because you are studying for an exam? Are you reading because you want to get more informed with an article on the internet? So why do you guys read? Let me know. Why do you read? Like, why would you read things in English? What's your main goal for reading in English? So once you actually know why you're doing that, it gets easier. And then I'll teach you 2 techniques to help you guys to read whatever you're doing, okay? So let's use books, for example. Imagine that you are reading a book in English because you want to improve your vocabulary. So that's one of the main things I would say for English students. You start reading books because you start to get the message and you can improve your vocabulary. Because when we talk about reading, we are talking about inputs, right? So there are 2 things in English that are inputs, which is everything that you put inside your head, inside your body, pretty much. And that are outputs, which is everything that you put outside of your body. So when we talk about inputs, we're talking about yesterday and today. We're talking about listening and we're talking about reading because we are putting content inside our heads, right? When we're talking about outputs, which is everything that we put outside, we're talking mainly about speaking and writing. That's why usually speaking and writing are a little bit more difficult than listening and reading. Because when we are talking about listening and reading, the material itself is ready. So we just need to understand. So we are just collecting information. So you collect the information and then you process the information in your brain, and then you have to produce your outputs, which are speaking and writing. So when you are speaking and when you are writing, you actually have to do what? You have to use everything that you put inside your head. You have to put everything together, and this everything together needs to make sense, and then you can actually put it outside, right? That's why speaking and writing are usually more difficult, because you have to come up from nothing. You have to come up from 0 and then create something that you're gonna put outside, right? So when we're talking about reading, which is our topic today, reading is an input. So when you read something, you are putting information inside your brain. And then it's also important that we align the expectation, because everything that you put inside your head, it's not the same amount of information that you're gonna put outside. So usually we learn and we remember only 10% of everything that we study. So that's why a lot of people actually get frustrated, right? Because we're like, oh, but I can listen to people, I can understand, I can read, I can understand what I'm reading, but when I have to speak or when I have to write, it's so hard. I cannot do that. Because writing and speaking, it's only 10% of everything that you're actually putting inside. Everything from like your inputs, okay? So don't get too frustrated when this happens, because it's normal, it's part of the process, okay? So from everything you study, if you retain like 10%, that's a good sign. So if you wanna have more vocabulary, if you wanna remember more words, if you wanna speak more, if you wanna write more, what you have to do? You have to listen and you have to read more, okay? Why? Because we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we have to listen much more than we speak. We have 2 eyes as well. So we have to read much more than we speak, right? So there is no reason to get frustrated if in the beginning of your learning process you cannot speak yet. It's normal, okay? It's totally normal. We're gonna talk more about it in the speaking lesson, which is gonna be next week. But what I'm trying to say is that if you want to have more vocabulary, if you want to have more content, if you want to speak more, you need to listen and you need to read more, okay? Someone just commented that they want to read more because they want to become a writer. So if you want to become a writer, if you want to have more outputs, because writing is an output, you need to read more, right? It's like, it's not a secret, it's like a funnel. So the more you put inside the funnel, the more you get out of the funnel. So I really want to encourage you guys to start reading. And some people, they just have like, I don't know why, but they just hate reading. And I don't know how is that possible, because even if we don't want to, we are reading all the time. We are reading signs on the streets. We are reading, we are doing some researches on the internet, and then we are reading articles on Google or whatever. We are reading topics at school, for example, on our assignments or anything like that. So we are reading, right? We are reading all the time. So what if you actually can choose what you want to read? And then it could be something that you like. I believe that the main problem with reading is that we make the reading process an obligation. We make the English process an obligation. And if we think about English, English is not the final destination. No one just says like, oh yeah, I want to speak English because it's really cool. It's like, cool for what? Like, cool for who? You know, like, that doesn't make sense. English is not the final destination. English is the journey. So what you're gonna do with English, it's what really matters. So no one says like, oh yeah, I'll just like read here, I'll get some words in English because it's nice. Like, okay, like if you have extra time. But when we start to make this reading process an obligation, it's gonna be like so hard, like because we don't get the motivation to read, right? So first thing I would say, the first step ever to read, like to improve your reading skills, it's have a goal. Like, know why you're reading that. So let's say, for example, that it's because you want to improve your vocabulary, okay? And then once you improve your English vocabulary, you can feel more confident to talk to people because you're gonna have more words to use. You're gonna understand more words when people are talking to you as well. So let's take vocabulary as the main reason for this example, okay? So this is gonna be our example. So first step, I wanna read because I wanna improve my vocabulary in English, okay? Then what you're gonna do, step 2, you're gonna choose what you want to read. So if you want to improve your vocabulary in English, what type of vocabulary do you want to improve? Because vocabulary is something huge, right? It's not any type of vocabulary. So for example, I work with neuroscience. So the books that I'm reading at the moment, I'm reading 2, and both of them are related to neuroscience, because this is the type of vocabulary and the type of knowledge that I want to have, that I want to learn about. So it doesn't make sense for me if I choose a book about medicine, for example. I am not a doctor, so why would I choose a medicine book to read in English? It's like, maybe not. Maybe there is a reason behind that, but for me at this point, there is no reason. So why would I do that? Did you get it? So if my goal is not very clear, the reading process is gonna become an obligation for me. So the second step is choose what you want to read. And if you don't like reading books, if you think it's too big or if you think it's too much for your moment of life, that's fine. You can start reading articles on internet, for example. If you read one article a day, it's like if you're reading 2 or 3 pages of a book a day, and you are still reading and you are still practicing your vocabulary, and you don't feel like it's a huge commitment. I feel like most people, they don't like long-term goals. So they think like, oh, but I'm gonna get a book, it's like 200 pages. How long it's gonna take, right? If you don't start, it's gonna take forever because you never start, you never finish. But if you read like 2, 3, 4 pages a day, it's not a lot, and you're gonna get there. Eventually, you're gonna finish the book, right? But it needs to be a topic that you like, because you're not gonna read a book for like 1, 2, 3 months reading the same book if it's about something that you don't like, if it's about something that you're doing for obligation, right? So choosing the correct book, it makes the whole difference. Choose a topic that you like, okay? And then some people say, for example, oh, Alini, can I choose like kids' books? What do you guys think? Do you guys read kids' book? Let me know. Like, oh, just read kids' book. Yep. My answer for this question about kids' book, yes and no. English teachers are trying to kill me. No, I'm kidding. I don't recommend kids' book for my students because they're gonna get bored. Unless it's something, unless it really depends on their English level. If they are beginners and until like pre-intermediate level, yes, you can definitely read kids' book. People are laughing. Yes, I don't recommend, because most of my students are more advanced students. That's why all my content is in English already. I don't recommend kids' books. Because the vocabulary is very basic. So if you are like basic level, like beginners and pre-intermediate level, you can definitely go for kids' books. But I'd rather recommend them to choose like a shorter text. It's still like easier vocabulary, maybe like search for something on internet, but about a topic that they love, because this is gonna force them to improve their level. Oh yeah, The Little Prince is a topic. I don't think The Little Prince is a kid's book though. Yeah, we need to be very careful with that as well. Even like movies and stuff, it looks like a kid's book, but there are lots of messages behind that. Yeah, English teacher Leon saying I teach kids too. Exactly. Like if you teach kids, if you work with kids, I have some students, they work with childcare. So definitely, if the topic is related to your life, if it's related to your goals, you should definitely go for kids book, but only if that makes sense for you. Okay. I don't want my students to feel like, oh, she's just telling me to go for kids book because it's easier. No, I really want to push my students to go higher and to learn more vocabulary. So I would say, like, if you work with kids or if you are like beginner, pre-intermediate levels, yes, for sure you can use kids books. But there are many other stories that you can use to push them and to get more real life vocabulary. Even like go for real life situations, you know, and then slowly you start to get more technical. If you want to improve the vocabulary related to your industry, related to your job, read books related to that, right? So if you work, for example, with even like not even books but articles or anything like that, if you are, for example, an engineer and you want to improve your engineering vocabulary, you're not going to read kids book to do that, are you? So it always depends on your main goal. Okay. So that's something that I want to say, and something that I never do. Like, I don't recommend books. I just don't, because every person is unique. So, for example, I like reading books about the brain and about neuroscience, about mindset, about all of these kind of things. So I'm not going to recommend that to people if they don't like the topic. So I really feel like it's a waste of time, to be honest. So I don't recommend books. I help my students to find the books that they like to. So make a list of topics that you like. Check what is your English level. Even if you look at the back of the book sometimes, they say what's the level of English for that book. Go to public libraries and have a look. And really go between the shelves and then just see the books, see the categories that you like. For example, I love traveling. So if you give me like books about traveling, I'm gonna love them. Even like with biographies, like when you talk, when you tell someone the stories and everything like that, it's like something that I like as well, but not everyone likes it, right? So why I would just say like, oh, just read the book. This is a very good book. Go and read this book. Like, I don't do that, because what I like, it's not what the other person's like, right? So if I recommend a book saying that it's really good and the person doesn't like it, or if they cannot read it, they're gonna get frustrated about that. So I'll just let them choose their own book, and then I guide them to do that process, right? So I highly recommend you guys, when you start reading something, choose something that you really like, that you're really into it, okay? So Aline, if you're not reading kids books, what types of books are we reading, right? So first thing, choose something that you really like. Second thing, something that really helped me to start reading books in English was read a book that you've already read before in your first language. So for example, I'll give you some examples. When I was back in Brazil, I used to read a lot of Dan Brown. So I'm not sure if you like him. If you don't like him, that's fine. I like him, so I like his books. So like the Da Vinci Code and all of these books. So I used to read them in Portuguese, right? The Lost Symbol and all of that. So the first book ever that I read in English was The Lost Symbol, because I've read the book in Portuguese first, because Portuguese is my first language. So I read the book on my first language first, like in the past. And then after a few years, I decided that I would read the book in English. And why I highly recommend you to do that? Because you already know the story. So you're not gonna get frustrated about not understanding the idea of the book, because you already know it, and then you have more headspace, you have more time, and you can use your energy and your effort to focus on the English part of the book. And then you can actually focus on vocabulary and learn about the new words. So reading a book that you've already read before in your first language is really helpful. How is saying Harry Potter? Definitely. I've read all of them. I would read all of them again. I grew up reading Harry Potter and watching Harry Potter, and I have a Harry Potter tattoo. So yeah, I'm a big Harry Potter fan. And I have all the books in English as well. So even though I know the story, because I grew up with Harry Potter, even though I know the story, when I watch the movies in English and when I read the books in English, I still learn new vocabulary, because the vocabulary is very different from the Portuguese version. And even the names, because it's like they have very specific vocabulary from the story, right? From Harry Potter. It's like the magic and all of that, they have different names in English as well. So I had to read everything again in English just to get new vocabulary. And every time I do that, every time I learn a new word. FS Polak is saying, I read my Bible in English. That's something as well, that I do have a Bible in English here in Australia. And I do the same, like I learned a lot of vocabulary. When I started to go to church in Australia, I learned so much vocabulary, even with the songs, like reading the Bible and with the songs, because it's vocabulary that I didn't know, right? Some vocabulary I even don't know in Portuguese, but it definitely helps. So choose something that you like and then read that in English, because this way you can actually focus on new words and new vocabulary, and you're gonna keep your motivation, okay? So that's something really important. Everyone, you don't understand, look for the meaning. I'll talk about it. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You'll never finish the book if you stop every single word. So let's go for some techniques. So number one step that we talk about, it's have a clear goal. Why are you reading that? And then number 2, choose wisely. Choose the book or choose the article, choose what you're gonna read, and choose something that you like, okay? Mainly like you can choose like something that you've read before in your first language. So that's really helpful. And then what I'm gonna say, next step, I would say now let's go for some reading techniques, okay? So first thing I would say is look for content words. So yesterday we talked about the content words. So you don't have to read every single word in a book. That's gonna be boring. So the same technique that we mentioned yesterday for listening, it also helps you for reading. So you don't have to read every single word. You just need to look for content words that we talked about yesterday. If you don't know what content words are, watch the live from yesterday. It's on my IGTV because I explained content words. So you just need to look for the content words, and then you automatically you connect them. So you don't have to read every single word, okay? So that's the first thing. When you do that, when you read in chunks, you are actually reading the text in like small blocks. Don't read every single word. Read it like in blocks and look for the content words. When you do that, this in English, it's called scanning. So you are actually like scanning the words. You are looking for the content words, right? And the scanning technique really helps as well when you are taking a test. Because if you are taking a test and you are looking for an answer, you are actually reading, looking for something. When you are just passing your eyes through the lines, that's scanning. So that really helps you to find the content words that you're looking for, okay? So this is really helpful. What if you don't know the words? Aline, should I stop and translate or like look for the meaning on every single word that I don't know? No, otherwise you're gonna spend 100 years reading the same book, right? That's not the idea. So first thing I would say, stop translating. We talked about it yesterday, like translating is not an option. So if you're reading a book, you find a word that you don't know, you put the word in the translator, that's already wrong. Like, I don't know who taught you that, but you can stop doing that now. I'm telling you, that's not a good idea, okay? Stop translating, stop thinking about your languages. Guys, you don't have to have translator on your phones anymore. You're not understanding, like, translating is not a good idea, okay? And why it's not a good idea? Because once you translate the word, imagine like, okay, I'm here, I'm reading my book. Oh, I don't know this word. Translate. At that time, you know the meaning. 2 minutes after, if you see the word again, you already forgot the meaning because you translated. You didn't learn the word, you only translated. So translated, it's something that you learned at that moment and then you forget straight away because you're not making any effort. So your brain is like, oh, this is not important, I don't have to keep it. So translating is a terrible option. So what you're gonna do, if you don't know the word you're reading, you don't know the word. So what you're gonna do, you don't have to stop in every single word that you don't know. You're gonna try to read the whole sentence, okay? So you're gonna read in blocks. You're gonna try to read the whole sentence. And then try to see if that sentence has a good meaning for you. Like if you can understand the meaning of the sentence, even though you don't know every single word, okay? And then you just keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. Like there's gonna be lots of words that you don't know, keep reading. Try to understand the main idea. But if you have like a content word, like a very important word that you don't know the meaning and you can see like the same word repeats over and over again, then you should look for the meaning of that word. Because if you keep reading and you still don't understand, it's because something is missing, okay? And then how you're gonna look for the meaning? You're gonna Google the word, write down the word, and write down meaning in front of the word. Not translator, meaning. And then you understand what the word is saying, okay? You don't have to do it for every single word you don't know, just for the main words that are repeating, because that's gonna help you to understand the whole idea of the text, okay? That works for books, that works for articles, that works for everything. And then you can take notes of your new words, okay? And of course, when you're taking notes, you're gonna write down the word and the meaning. You're not gonna write down the translation, okay? Translation is not an option anymore. So I don't wanna see people translating anymore. Cool. And then I got a question here. Someone was asking if it's not too hard or too difficult to read the Bible. I find it hard to read the Bible in Portuguese, which is my first language. So it's gonna be hard anyway, right? So it's like, that's why there are like some Bible groups, Bible study groups. I don't know much about it, to be honest. I'm pretty new in this church thing, in this Bible thing. It's been maybe like a year and a half since I came to Australia, a little bit more, almost 2 years. And like, I find it hard to read the Bible in Portuguese. So in English, it's the same level of hard, I would say. So once I have to put some effort to understand it in Portuguese anyway, I just prefer to do that in English. So I just put effort once instead of understanding Portuguese and then having to translate. I prefer to put some more effort and do that in English and do it once, for example. Even like if you talk about church, I don't know a lot of like church vocabulary. I'm still like in the process of learning it. So I don't know the names of the characters, you know, like the names of the books. It's very specific. Even like some worship songs, I don't know all the vocabulary. So I was thinking about offering to be like an interpreter at church, because sometimes they have like the simultaneous translation, but I don't know the vocabulary, so it's very specific. And imagine I'm just there translating, and then I translate like the names of the people in the Bible, like I translate wrong names or whatever. So I decided not to do, because I don't feel like I'm ready for that, because it's still a topic that I'm still studying and I'm still learning. Maybe in a few years I'll be ready for that, right? And that's something as well. When we are reading something, we will never know every single word, every single vocabulary for every single topic. We always know, we tend to know the topics that we use the most. So for example, for me today, I know a lot of topics for like general English, for daily situations, for public speaking, for classes about neuroscience, about the brain, about memory. So I know a lot of vocabulary this time, because this is my daily life. If you ask me vocabulary, for example, for nursing or for church, or these types of vocabularies that are topics that are not related to my daily life, I don't know. It's like, I don't have to know, you know? Sometimes even like tools, I went to Bunnings, which is like a tools store. And I don't know the names of the tools. Like if I have to fix something in my house, I'll be like, I don't know what tools I have to use. And even in Portuguese, I don't know the names of the tools. I would have to ask my father for that. Like, Dad, how do you call this? Because I don't know. Like, we'll never know all the vocabulary for everything, right? And I have no problems when someone asks me something like, and I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know. I've never thought about it before. And we will never know everything, right? So just don't create this huge expectation, right? I know vocabulary that is related to my life, to my daily life. And that's the books that I read, that's the movies and the documentaries and the videos that I watch. And that's why I always tell people that learning a language, it's a process that never ends. Like, you never finish you're not learning a language. You'll never stop learning a language. English, you'll never know everything. Even Portuguese, I have some friends from south of Brazil here. Sometimes they are having a conversation and I'm just like, what are you talking about? You know, like gaúchos friends. I'm from São Paulo. So they are just using some words in Portuguese and I'm like, what's that? You know, like I feel like I'm learning Portuguese here in Australia as well, because we have different expressions, different words, and different vocabularies. So in the books, it's gonna be the same thing. When you are reading books, it's gonna be exactly the same thing. You will never know everything, okay? And then you just keep reading. If you're getting the idea of the book, just keep reading, okay? Does it make sense? Awesome. And then So scanning, so I'll talk about two things. I'm from the south of Brazil, so you know what I'm talking about. Like, first thing, we don't say bergamota, it's mexerica, okay? That's something, like bergamota doesn't exist. Like lagartiano, like guys, come on, right? Like having a sunbath. Like let's facilitate a few things here, okay? I don't agree with the vocabulary. Uh, it's really funny. Like it's super fun. It's super fun. So I do feel like I'm learning Portuguese sometimes. Awesome. So let's talk about these two techniques. Ah, someone is laughing. Someone, a lot of people are laughing because it's true, right? It's like, it's mexerica, though it's like the, no, bergamota doesn't exist. Tangerine is another fruit. Like that's another one. It's not even this one that we're talking about. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, mandioca, cassava, right? In English, we say cassava. See, in English is much easier, guys. In English, we have one word, cassava. In Portuguese, we have mandioca, aipim, macaxeira. It's like, see, English is much easier. In English, is one word, one word. And why we have so many? In English, orange. Done. Everything is orange. Like, done. One word for everything. Everything's the same. Everything is orange. Awesome. So you see, like, we have some differences here. We got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. Okay, so let's talk about two techniques for reading. So the first one I mentioned, that the first word, the first technique is scanning. So scanning is when you actually scan. You just pass your eyes through the text and you are looking for words. You are looking for keywords, okay? You are not looking to understand the idea. You are actually looking for something. So when you are taking a test, you usually read the questions first, and then you read the text, knowing that you're looking for something. So this is a scanning process. The other technique, which is not scanning, it's called skimming. So skimming, it's when you read quickly to have like an overview, to have an idea of what you're reading. So in this case, you read in chunks. You read the message in blocks. So you have like an idea of what the text is saying, okay? So scanning and skimming are very good for tests. If you have like to take an IELTS exam or like CELPIP or PT or TOEFL or Cambridge or whatever you want to call, whatever text you want to take, that's really, really, really helpful. And then something else that I want to say, some people think that you need to read fast. And like, I disagree. If you are in a test, yes, you have some time, right? So you have to read fast. But honestly, when I took my IELTS test for the last time, which was my best score, I did the whole text, the whole exam, and I didn't read anything. Like I didn't read a single text, like the whole text. I don't remember what the texts are about, because when you take a test, you are not reading to understand the story, you are reading to find information. So I took my whole test without reading a single reading exercise, like the activity, because I was pretty much reading the questions, the options, and then finding them. So it really depends on your goal. Remember our first step, remember about your goal. So my goal during IELTS was to find information. So I didn't want to know what the text was about. I just wanted to find the information, okay? If you're reading books, the way I read books, I take my time, because sometimes I feel like we are living like in a season that I think the society really expect us to be like super hyper productive all the time and do like 100 things at the same time. And it feels like a competition all the time. So people are like, oh yeah, like I read one book every month, or I read one book every 2 weeks. Like I read 2 books a month. I read one book per week. And I'm like, is that a competition? like, I just like reading my books, you know, like, and then I just feel like we getting this vibe that we feel bad if we're not reading like a book a month. So I'm like, people, what's your problem? You know, like, if you want to read fast because that's something important for you, because you have to or because you like to, that's okay. But if you are not that person, if you are just starting, like if you're starting to read books now, it's not a competition. If you don't read any book, if you've never read an English book in your life, if you read one book in a year, that's already 100% more of what you've ever done before. So that's already good. You understand? Like, it shouldn't be a competition. It should be something that you do it for pleasure. You do it because you like, you read because you want to read, and then you get the most out of your book. Does it make sense? And the more you read, the faster you get. It's like automatically. So of course, like, there are some scanning techniques. If you use, for example, digital books, if you use Kindle, it makes it a little bit easier to look for meanings of the words and all of that. But I am a kinesthetic person, so I only read paper books. Like, digital books are gonna kill me. Like, I don't like them. So I need a paper book, you know? And something else that I do, I like to read books. I'm reading two now related to neuroscience. So one is Super Brain, and the other one is Neuro Language. So I'm reading two books at the same time because I like reading, like, one in the morning and one in the evening, but that's just me. And what happens is I've been reading these two books for 6 months at least. And that's fine. Like, I'm not in a competition, right? It's like, oh, Aline, like, that's a lot of time. That's my time. And what I like to do, I don't like just to read this type of books because it's not like a fiction or a story. I like to study the book, and everything that I read in the book that I find that it's super cool and can help my students and can help me in my classes, I'll take notes, I'll bring this topic to my classes, to my lessons and everything. So I don't say that I am reading these two books. I would say that I am studying these two books. I get vocabulary, I get new terms, I get new ideas, and then I apply these ideas. So it's not just my time for reading them, but it's my time for applying them in my real life. Because if I just read them like in a week, of course I would finish, but then what? Like, I did not have enough time to apply what I've studied, you know? So it really depends on the type of the book. It's not a competition. Like, life is not a race. You're not competing to anyone. You don't have to read 20 books in a year if you don't want to. If you've never read an English book before, start with one. Like, that's the simplest that it can get. Like, just choose one small book, a topic that you really like, and then take your time, you know? What I think it's important is that you create a habit, okay? So what I would say, like, it doesn't matter if you're gonna take like a year to read a book, as long as you are actually reading it and you're not just putting it on the side and forgetting about that. So if you are actually reading like a little bit every day and you are creating a habit, that's what really matters, because then you're gonna be learning new words, you're gonna be learning something every single day, okay? And of course, like, if you've been reading books for a while, if you love reading fast, reading in chunks, like reading in blocks instead of reading every single word, that's really helpful if you want to start reading fast, okay? And of course, it's possible to read fast and still get the message, okay? I think it's more like a matter of preferences. I am not in a competition. So I really feel bad. Like, sometimes people don't even want to start reading a book because they already think they're in a competition. So the only person you should compete, it's with yourself. So think about last year, like 2019. How many English books did you read last year? And then just choose like what you want to read this year, right? If you read none and you read one book this year, you are already improving. And then next year, maybe you can read 2 English books. And then maybe you can read 3 English books. And then slowly you start to get better. It's better to have like small goals and then you can actually achieve them, then just tell yourself like, oh, I've never read an English book before, but this year I'm gonna read 12. I'm gonna read one book a month. What's the chance that you're gonna do that? Like, honestly, right? You're just creating like a huge expectation, like a high goal, and you're not gonna get it. Like, you know, like, so just go step by step, okay? Just think about yourself, and then just compare you to yourself, and that's already good enough, okay? So just choose something that you really like, and then start doing it. Even like after this live, guys, seriously, just choose a book that you want to start reading, and then post a picture and tag me, because I want to see the books that you guys are reading, okay? And then we can share recommendations and everything with the group. The Phantom of the Opera is awesome to read. Isa, I don't think I would read that book, to be honest. Not my cup of tea, but I'm glad you liked it. When I don't know the word, I'm going to translation better. Do never translate. No, that's what I've just said. Like, translating, it's never a good option. Look for the meaning of the words. Last year, I didn't read any book, even in Portuguese. Exactly, Babi. So it's impossible for you to tell yourself like, oh, and this year I want to read 12 books in English, you know? So just choose one and then just go for it. Like, that's more than you've done before. Anyway, so I have to read fast scanning. If I read slow, I start translating every word and I don't know the meaning, and I think about grammar. Yeah, and it really depends on your goal. If your goal for reading, it's actually to improve your grammar, then of course it's gonna take more time for you to read, because you're gonna be focusing on grammar, right? It always depends on your goal. If your goal is vocabulary, you're gonna read in one way. If your goal is grammar, you're gonna read with different eyes, right? If your goal is spelling, you're gonna read with different eyes. If your goal is just to get the general message just for fun, you're gonna read in a different way. So that's why step number one is actually choose your goal. Why are you reading for, right? And then that's gonna make the difference on the way you are actually reading the book and studying and all of that. Not only the book, but also like the articles and everything, okay? So let's just recap. So step number one for improving your reading, know why you are reading that. So that's what I've just said. If it's for vocabulary, you're gonna read on one way. If it's for grammar, you're gonna read in another way. If it's like a book, like a story, you're gonna read in another way. So decide your goal first. Step number two, then you're gonna look for content words, which is the scanning technique. So you actually can just pass your eyes and then just start getting like the content words if you're looking for improving your vocabulary, right? So scanning is one reading technique. Step number three is skimming, is another reading technique if you just want to get the main idea of the text or of the book. So if you're just trying to get the general idea, the context, just understanding what's about, then you can read in chunks. So you read in blocks instead of focusing on every single word. And then that's the skimming technique, okay? And then we also talked about do not translate the words. Don't stop reading in every single word that you don't know. Just keep reading. Try to understand the context. Try to understand the idea. And if it is a content word that you don't know, search for the meaning, but don't translate the word. Cool? You don't have to read quickly unless you want to. Like, life is not a race. This is not a competition. If you've never read an English book before, you can choose like a book that you've read in your first language, and then you can just read the same one in English. And this is pretty much like some general tips that can definitely help you to improve your reading skills. Cool, guys? I've read more than 20 English books, helped me to learn vocabulary. Exactly, like me too. I don't even know how many books I've read. Like, I don't really take note. But it's so helpful. So just take your time, choose something that you really like. If you don't want to start reading books, start reading things on the internet, start reading posts on Instagram, and really like just start small and go step by step, Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna save this live. I'm gonna leave it on my IGTV if you came late or if you missed anything, if you wanna rewatch again. And tomorrow I'm gonna be here on the same time, 9:17 Sydney time. And tomorrow we're gonna talk about writing. And you don't have to become a writer after that. It's not my main goal, but I'm gonna give you some tips to actually start writing anything, like even like text messages. You know, sometimes we don't even write text messages. We have to go on the translator and then we just copy and paste like that. Let's learn how to write, okay? So we're gonna do that tomorrow. So thank you so much for today, and I'll see you all tomorrow, same time. Bye-bye.